Hey guys, what's up? Happy Friday and welcome back. Thanks so much for tuning in this week for another episode of the BMuz Reviews podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Musica. As always, we're going to analyze, review, and discuss the latest news and dive into the past regarding movies, music, video games, and much, much more. If you don't already, be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at BMuz Reviews and tune in to the BMuz Reviews podcast each week on Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, and all other streaming platforms. If you're watching on YouTube, we thank you so much for tuning in. Please be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment below, and hit the bell icon to receive notifications that inform you exactly when our podcast and all other video content goes live. If there's a question or topic that you'd like us to discuss on the podcast, send them to bmuzreviews@gmail.com with podcast, question/topic in the subject line. With all that out of the way, let's not waste any more time and get right to this week's news. Welcome everyone to the BMuz Reviews podcast. And with that, brings us to our first topic today. We're going to talk about the recent Super Bowl, Super Bowl 56, which saw the Rams defeat the Cincinnati Bengals. But during the game, we saw a load of new commercials, as we always look forward to every year. We also saw a bunch of movie trailers coming out for this upcoming year. Now, a lot of the buzz regarding the commercials centered around the Sopranos themed commercial. I believe it was Chevy. Very much talked about commercial. All the fans of the series talking about it all over social media. My personal favorite commercial this year was actually the return of the Cable Guy. Seeing Jim Carrey return as the Cable Guy in the FiOS commercial, I thought that was great. That was my personal favorite this year. I absolutely love the Cable Guy. It's one of my favorite Jim Carrey movies. That and The Majestic, I think, are two very underrated Jim Carrey films. If you have not seen either one of them, definitely BMuz Reviews recommended. Now, in terms of movie trailers, the Lord of the Rings trailer, it definitely received some mixed reviews online from fans. And we'll get into that maybe in a later episode. But we also saw the Jurassic World Dominion trailer air, and we saw the official trailer for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which brings us to our very next topic today. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, the official trailer, debuts during the Super Bowl. And this trailer had so much to unpack. If you're like myself, I'm sure you watched the trailer multiple times after initially watching. So let's break it down. We see Doctor Strange wake up from this nightmare-like scenario in the beginning of the trailer. And fast forward into the trailer just a tad, we eventually see him walk into this room. And this is the scene in the trailer that everybody's talking about. We see Doctor Strange walk into this room, escorted by, which seems like Ultrons, and he's handcuffed, restrained. He walks into this room, and we see this council. And upon seeing this council, it immediately flips, and we hear a voice, a very familiar voice. That voice belongs to the one and only Patrick Stewart. That is the immediate thought in everyone's mind when initially watching this trailer. When I watched it, it's the very first thought that popped up in my mind. It seems like an image of a bald guy wheeling his way forward slightly. Just the voice alone, gave it away, I feel. The voice alone, once you heard that iconic voice, you knew it was Professor Charles Xavier. Now, with Disney's acquisition of Fox, thus all of its properties, the X-Men in the MCU is only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time. Patrick Stewart could also be playing a different character. I highly doubt that, but it could happen. It wouldn't be the first time that Marvel Studios had cast someone to look like a character crossover when in reality they were someone else entirely. WandaVision, hello? So my ultimate guess would be that he is playing Charles Xavier. He is playing Professor X. Now, leads us to the next question is this the Illuminati? And no, it's not that kind of Illuminati you're thinking of. So in the comics, the Illuminati is a council of various characters from a wide array of universes across the multiverse. On this council, could we potentially see Professor X? Could we see Reed Richards? Who knows? The possibilities are endless, and I think that's the way they want it to be. They want to keep us guessing, and ultimately, like No Way Home gave us, They want to give us a boatload of surprises, things we will never see coming, things that we never expect to see. But very excited. Very, very excited. There are a few shots shown in the trailer that look like they take place within the home from WandaVision as well. We see Wanda staring at these toys that ultimately alludes to her thinking about her two sons who she lost and desperately trying to do anything to get them back. Now, we also see a potential showdown, which looks like between Wanda and Captain Marvel in the trailer as well. That looks epic. Looks absolutely epic. The dark room in the trailer that Strange finds himself in, talking to what looks like an alternative version of himself, an evil alternative version of himself. That dark room strongly reminded me of the room that we saw Kang in during the Loki series. Reminded me very much of that room. Later in the trailer also, we see Rintrah. Now, Rintrah is a character who we know is going to appear in the film. We saw him in the teaser trailer that originally came out, and we also talked about him during the first episode of the BMuz Reviews podcast. We talked about Rintrah along with Sleepwalker and Despair. We see Rintrah in the trailer staring up at this ginormous dark cloud that's engulfing the sky. Who knows what that is? Who knows? Then we see what could be Zombie Strange at the very end of the trailer. Is that possibly our first look at Despair? I don't think so. I think it is Zombie Strange. If so, does that make What If, the show on Disney Plus, is that now a required viewing? Especially episode 5 of that debut series, which directly involves zombies. Is that what we're looking at here? Who knows? I mean, there's so many questions that this trailer left us with, but it's super, super exciting ultimately just to see Sam Raimi direct a movie that is rooted in comic book material and also horror as well. Could not be more excited for this. And especially the fact that it's taking place within the MCU and it's going to continue the story that we've seen play out over the last 10 plus years. Now, the cherry on top, I will say, is that Danny Elfman created this score. A score by Danny Elfman is the absolute cherry on top plus the sprinkles. Like, it's could not get better than that. Sam Raimi directing a movie rooted in the comic book material and horror elements and themes, and getting Danny Elfman to do the score. May 6th cannot come soon enough. Cannot wait for this film. Now, it brings us to our next topic today. The problem with modern day movie trailers. So many modern day movies just completely jeopardize any hope that they have of box office success with awful movie trailers. The major issue is that trailers are just giving way too much. The studios are so concerned with getting you to buy a ticket to go see their film when it comes out that they are completely unaware of the fact that they're basically creating a non-comical version of the Honest Trailers spoofs from YouTube. I mean, there's no awareness in that. An example of what a trailer should not be is Windfall. Windfall is a movie that we talked about last week on the podcast. It's one of our most highly anticipated films of 2022 for Netflix. Now, it still stands as one of the most anticipated films for myself coming on Netflix. But the trailer does not do the movie any justice whatsoever. It just gives so much away. And if you're like myself, a lot of times when you're in the theater and you're watching a trailer, many times for the first time, you just halfway through the trailer, 2 minutes into the trailer, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm good. I don't need to see anymore. But no, another minute and a half is going to continue. And you're looking at a 3.5 minute trailer that just basically summed up the entire movie for you. Why go see it? Why spend the money? Why take the time out of your day to go see a movie that basically just advertised itself in showing you its entirety in 3.5 minutes? It's a valid question, and it's also an issue that is hurting a lot of modern day movies. Now, a perfect example of what a modern day trailer should be, in my opinion, is Nope, the upcoming horror film from Jordan Peele. Nope is a perfect example of what a trailer should aim to do. Show very little, but don't tell anyone what it's about. Show, don't tell. Now, the problem is that most movies nowadays are playing show and tell for 2 to 3 minutes at a time, and we just go, well, I'll wait for it to be available on streaming. In no way does it help the studio or its movies. It just doesn't. Simple as that. Nowadays, the only trailers that I do watch are the first initial trailers that come out for movies that I'm most looking forward to. After that, I don't watch a single trailer or TV spot that comes out to advertise that film. I don't want to see more than I need to. I'm already hooked in. You already got me. Perfect example, The Batman. There have been TV spots upon TV spots upon TV spots upon TV spots. Those TV spots then have TV spots. Like, it just goes on and on and on. There's so much footage released from the film so far. And granted, it is a 3-hour film. But I'm going to pay money to go see it in person. I don't need to see, 10 to 15% of the movie online just to, get me hyped up for it anymore. I'm already hyped enough. It's already my most anticipated movie of the year. We don't need to have 15 to 20 TV spots, 4 to 5 trailers for a movie. At most, maybe 3 trailers, depending on when you initially start the marketing campaign for the movie, I would say. These Netflix films, they're a month from release date, and they're getting their first trailers. Now, granted, the trailers aren't the best, but at least they're doing themselves justice in not showing us as much as they would if it was a full theatrical release. I just hope that these movies are able to adapt, and I really hope that the studios act on this, as many of these trailers do jeopardize the box office success, which is simple, awful trailers or simply showing you way too much. And it's an issue that will continue if not addressed. Now, switching gears a little bit, topic number 4. Rockstar Games has officially confirmed that Grand Theft Auto 6 is currently in development. Now, this is huge news. This is the first official word that we have received with regard to the next highly anticipated installment to the franchise. Grand Theft Auto 5, it's truly hard to believe, but Grand Theft Auto 5 came out in 2013, which is almost a decade ago. No idea where that time went. But since then, the game has sold over 155 million units, bringing the collective franchise total to over 370 million units. That is insane. The amount of money that this franchise has accumulated is just astronomical. One of the most successful video game franchises of all time. Cannot wait to see what the 6th installment will bring. Now, the studio has marked the likely release date close to 2024 or even 2025, which is to be expected. They want to get this game right. GTA 5 is one of the most revolutionary games in the past 10 years, in the past 20 years, maybe more. Now, because of that, they know where the anticipation and where the expectations are for this game, and they have to get it right, and they will. I have full faith that they will. Personally, I'm hoping for an 80s retro vibe, maybe Miami. I don't know what they're going to bring in, but I'm really hoping for an 80s setting / vibe here in this game. We'll have to wait and see what more comes out, but definitely wanted to talk about this as it's really exciting. Very, very big for not only the franchise as a whole, but also ultimately the video game industry as a whole as well, I would say. So 2024 to 2025, Grand Theft Auto 6, currently in development and on the way. Any more news that comes out, we'll be sure to talk about it, so stay tuned for more. Now, our next topic today, we're going to talk about Wednesday night's episode of AEW Dynamite. The show kicked off with CM Punk in the middle of the ring, pulling out a photo from a meet and greet with MJF when he was a kid. When talking about this photo, CM Punk simply said that while it was a day that MJF would remember fondly and remember forever, to him it was simply another Friday, which I'm sure cut deep. And then he asked MJF the most important question. He asked MJF to be his Valentine in the only appropriate way to ask, by challenging him to a dog collar match. This dog collar match is going to be an epic, bloody battle. CM Punk, when challenging him to this match, said, "To you, this is going to be one of the worst days of your life. But to me, it's going to be another Sunday." Continuing the overall arc and theme of his promo. Just a great start to this episode of Dynamite. Cannot wait to see this match take place, most likely on March 6th at Revolution coming up. Next, we saw Bryan Danielson versus Lee Moriarty. Now, this was a very fun and highly technical match, which saw Bryan Danielson emerge as the winner. At one point, both men were even locked in pretzel formation, standing on their heads, punching the crap out of each other. It was awesome. It was so awesome to see. Go look on YouTube, watch the highlights of this match if you haven't seen it already. Such a fun match. Highly technical, skilled performers in the ring together, duking it out. Such a great match. Saw Danielson come out as the winner. Now, after the match, Jon Moxley came out to address Danielson's offer from 2 weeks ago. Now, Moxley said that he had never beaten Danielson in the ring to date, and he does not join forces with anyone unless he bleeds with them first. So Moxley not giving a yes, not giving a no either. Giving us the match we want to see at Revolution. Then hopefully we get to see the epic feuds that both wrestlers could get into if they do indeed join forces. Really excited to see what happens with this story. Next, we saw Matt Caster completely shit on the hometown of Nashville, as he does with all the cities he walks into. And despite heavy interference by Anthony Bowens in this match, Wardlow still emerged victorious and earned his place in the face of the Revolution ladder match on March 6th at Revolution. Next, the AEW World Champion Hangman Adam Page entered the arena to address the crowd following his brutal victory and championship retain in last week's Texas Death Match with the Murderhawk Lance Archer in Atlantic City. Now, Hangman only got about 3 words in at most when Adam Cole's music hit and interrupted him. Cole comes out, Cole enters the ring, kicks Tony Schiavone out, looks Hangman right in the face. Cole references that when he's around in the same company, that Hangman just becomes the other Adam. Ouch. Now, then in a shift, we see Cole when the two inevitably meet for the AEW World title down the road. May the better man win. And he extended his hand out, and Hangman took his hand, and the two shook hands. Then out of nowhere, the Red Dragon team of Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly attack Hangman viciously. Security comes out along with the Dark Order to break it all up. But you know that this is only the beginning of what is to come between Hangman Adam Page and Adam Cole for the AEW World title. Can't wait to see what comes up next within the story. Now, backstage, following the attack on Hangman Page, the Young Bucks were visibly upset when standing next to the Red Dragon. It was also announced that Jurassic Express will defend the AEW World Tag Team Championships against 2 teams in a triple threat match at Revolution on March 6th. Could it be the Young Bucks and Red Dragon as the other teams? We'll have to wait and see. That points towards the most likely scenario, but we'll have to wait and find out. Stay tuned. We also saw Eddie Kingston come out to support Santana and Ortiz in their match against Jake Hager and Chris Jericho. Santana and Ortiz emerged victorious with the upset victory, I would say, and ultimately still leaving the Inner Circle in shambles. I mean, at this point, the Inner Circle has completely imploded. Sammy Guevara is off doing his own thing, defending the TNT title. Jake Hager still stands with Chris Jericho as Santana and Ortiz laid a beatdown on them both. Who knows where the Inner Circle is going to go from here, but we'll have to find out next week what lies ahead for the individual members. Next, we saw Thunder Rosa and Mercedes Martinez in a no DQ match. This match was absolutely brutal. Mercedes Martinez driving Thunder Rosa through a table on the outside of the ring. So many great spots in this match. Eventually, Thunder Rosa emerging victorious over Mercedes Martinez. After the match, Britt Baker appears and they viciously attack both Mercedes Martinez and Thunder Rosa, standing above both. Still not only the champion, but the supreme wrestler to beat amongst all the women in that respective division. Now, to end the show, we saw the TNT Championship match between Sammy Guevara and challenger Darby Allin. This was an epic match. Awesome match to the very end when we saw Andrade, right as Darby Allin was going to go for the coffin drop on the top rope, we saw Andrade come out and smash a tablet over the head of Darby Allin, knocking him completely unconscious. Sammy Guevara comes to. He stands on his feet. He sees that Darby Allin is unconscious. Not really sure what happened as he didn't see Andrade hit him with the tablet. Sammy then hits his finisher and is able to pin Darby and retain his TNT championship for another week. Matt Hardy then comes in and we see Andrade take both titles hoists them on his shoulders, raising one high, ultimately signaling that he is coming for the TNT Championship. And that is how we close this week's installment of AEW Dynamite. Very great episode. Much to look forward to tonight at Rampage. Special start time, 7 p.m. on TNT. Cannot wait to see the fallout from Dynamite and to see what happens next week on Dynamite on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. on TBS. Can't wait to see what happens. Now, our next topic today is a rather sad one. Did want to mention the fact that director Ivan Reitman has passed away at the age of 75. Known very well as both a producer and a director, Ivan Reitman created some of the most successful comedies in our time. Those include Meatballs, Stripes, Ghostbusters 1 and 2, Twins, Kindergarten Cop, Father's Day, Junior, and much more. He passed away on February 12th at the age of 75. Ivan Reitman most recently worked with his son Jason on the latest Ghostbusters Afterlife film and was currently in development with Triplets, a sequel to Twins, featuring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Danny DeVito, Eddie Murphy, and Tracy Morgan. Very sad news to hear, and he will surely be missed. Now, our next topic today, Amazon Prime announces that they have a new Blade Runner series in development entitled Blade Runner 2099. Now, this series is set to take place 50 years after the events of Blade Runner 2049. I am a huge fan of the Blade Runner franchise, and I was super excited when I heard that the series was happening. Now, while I am excited to hear that this news is happening, I am a little surprised since Blade Runner 2049 did not do well financially in the box office. Now, that was mainly due to a horrendous marketing campaign, just abhorrent advertising and marketing campaign that went into that film. Now, for anyone who had the opportunity and was fortunate enough to see the film when it was on the big screen where it belongs, with Denis Villeneuve's vision, Roger Deakins' Academy Award-winning cinematography, and the soundtrack alone, it was truly one of the most transformative, transcending, and ultimately memorable experiences that I've ever had inside of a movie theater. So I'm very excited to hear that this series is in development by Amazon. I'm just a little surprised, as it would be somewhat of a gamble, I would say. Now, the one truly remarkable notion that I have to mention is that if Amazon spends just a quarter of the amount that they spend on Lord of the Rings, just 1/4 of the amount that they spent on that series, Blade Runner 2099, this series, would still be in the top 5 of most expensive shows ever made. That is just absolutely crazy, but it's true. If they just spent 1/4 on this show that they spent on the Lord of the Rings series, it would be a top 5 most expensive show ever made. That's how much money they put into Lord of the Rings, just to give you guys another idea of what we're looking at in September with that series. Not sure if this series gamble will pay off for them with regard to Blade Runner 2099. I'm not sure, but I'll definitely be checking out when the series comes out for sure. Now, our next topic today, the first images of Michael Keaton as Batman in the upcoming Batgirl movie have been released. Set photos have been released showing Michael Keaton as Batman returning as the Dark Knight on the big screen. The first set images have been revealed. Now, according to an article written by Den of Geek, I'll link the full article in the description. This is what they say, and I quote, "There has never been a bigger year for The Dark Knight in the movie theaters. Not only will we get a brand new version of the character played by Robert Pattinson in director Matt Reeves' upcoming film, The Batman, but we're also set to see the return of Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck to the role in The Flash. Yes, that's 3 Batmen across 2 movies, and one of them is already shooting another movie as the Caped Crusader." Keaton has arrived in Glasgow to film scenes for the Batgirl movie, which will hit HBO Max sometime later this year as well, most likely after The Flash officially brings this classic Batman into the DCEU. We don't know very much about Keaton's role in the movie, although it's reasonable to assume that he'll serve as a mentor for Leslie Grace's Barbara, as she sets out on her own crime-fighting career. Thanks to photos leaked from the set, we also know that Keaton's Batman will appear in at least one flashback scene that sees him take down a group of criminals with a younger Jim Gordon, played by J.K. Simmons, in a red wig. The pictures feature Keaton's double in a batsuit that's very faithful to the Tim Burton films, but with a few tweaks as well, end quote. Now, the full article is going to be linked in the description, so you could check out more of what Den of Geek had to say and also the pictures that have been released from the set as well. I love to see that they paid homage and tribute to the Tim Burton films, and we see the original suit with slight tweaks to make it, I guess, slightly more modern for this era. But getting to see that style batsuit again on the big screen is going to be big. I'm very excited to not only see Michael Keaton return, but also Ben Affleck. I mean, we've really been gifted with tremendous performances. We've really been gifted with tremendous performances in that role. Michael Keaton, Ben Affleck, Christian Bale. I would even throw Val Kilmer's in there. Val Kilmer as at least Bruce Wayne, for my take. I mean, he was a very good Bruce Wayne, and especially for what they were going for at that time with Joel Schumacher. Now, DCEU future is exciting as well, and it's very intriguing. We know that The Flash comes out in November. We know that Aquaman 2 comes out soon after that, around the same time. And we see The Batman coming out next month, but so much to look forward to. The future is very exciting, and it's very intriguing. I have no idea where the story is going to go. Are they going to do their own multiverse? Will they mirror Marvel's strategic plans in opening up the door for many universes to be introduced into one common universe? Will The Flash serve as DC's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness? Will The Flash alter space and time in that movie, much like we saw Doctor Strange alter space and time in Spider-Man No Way Home? We'll have to wait and see. Very exciting, and the future is bright, not only Marvel, but DC as well. Now, our next topic today, the Warner Brothers and the Matrix lawsuit is getting very ugly. If you didn't know about this already, it's getting very ugly. For a little backstory, movies like Suicide Squad, Dune, King Richard, and The Matrix Resurrections, among others, were all promised a full theatrical release without any interference, no streaming on HBO Max, none of that. Full theatrical release, and that's what the deal stated. Instead, Warner Brothers decided to backstab each filmmaker and financial partner by just putting all their movies out on HBO Max without consulting and or notifying any of the parties involved. That's a big no-no. You don't do that. And one of the financial partners behind the movie Matrix Resurrections, Village Roadshow, they are now suing Warner Brothers over the loss of money and the non-agreed plan to put the movie out on HBO Max the same day as it hit theaters. Now, Disney's response to Scarlett Johansson when Black Widow came out, their response is still beyond the most idiotic response to date from a studio to all involved parties. Now, Disney's response to Scarlett Johansson when Black Widow came out, it's still beyond the most idiotic response to date. But this one comes very close to taking that title away from Disney. Village Roadshow is saying, hey, we lost a lot of money. We lost a lot of money because of your decision to add the movie to HBO Max the same day as it hit theaters. Now, that decision, which you never consulted and or notified us of, is a direct violation of our contract agreement. Now, in response to Village Roadshow, a representative at Warner Brothers said, and I quote, "Village Roadshow's actions have been duplicitous, and this dispute is equally contrived." First of all, who is saying this? What representative did you get from Warner Brothers? Is this guy from like the 1800s? Village Roadshows have been duplicitous, and this dispute is equally contrived. Like, what? Who did you talk to? Winston Churchill? Anyway, continuing on. Warner Brothers representative says, and I quote, "Village was happy to have their name on the credits of the film." Well, yeah, maybe because they funded the actual movie and co-produced it and also co-own it. Anyway, continuing on. Village was happy to have their name on the credits of the film, traveled to the world premiere in San Francisco, and held themselves out to the media as producers on the film. But they have now reneged on their contractual obligation to pay their share of the cost of the film. Oh, maybe because you f***ed them over? You hurt them financially? You broke their agreement and they may just be a tad bit hesitant to pay you more money, millions upon millions more. Maybe they're just a tad hesitant. The representative continues, I quote, "It is notable that throughout 2021, we reached mutually acceptable agreements on all the films in the 2021 slate to provide additional compensation to talent and our partners in light of our day-and-date release strategy during the COVID-19 pandemic." Yeah, accommodations that you announced to the world that you were going forward with without ever consulting any of the interested parties beforehand. I mean, seriously, who does that? A quote, "The only exception was Village Roadshow, which refused to honor its commitment to pay their share of production costs, rejecting the opportunity we offered to de-risk them from any financial underperformance. Instead, Village Roadshow wanted to enjoy the benefit of publicly holding themselves out as co-owners and producers while preserving a ultimate outcome of the film's performance without any financial investment on their part." End quote. Okay, I'm going to break this down and point out exactly what this is. Warner Brothers' big defense is Village Roadshow are the only ones that did not drink the Kool-Aid. They didn't go along with being willingly screwed over. That is Warner Brothers' big defense. These two companies, Warner Brothers and Village Roadshow, they have been working together for over 33 years. The first movie they worked on together was the Nicole Kidman movie Dead Calm that came out in 1989. Since then, they have worked together on loads of films. You know, this is a real shame to say. This lawsuit will not go to court. This is going to end up with Warner Brothers having to write a very big check, now even bigger because open their mouths. Winston Churchill Jr. over at Warner Brothers decided to come out and offer their 2 cents into what was going on. I don't understand the public mudslinging, especially between two companies that have such a long history of working together and being successful at it as well. It's just really just a shame to see. It's going to come down to check writing anyway. So I really just don't understand the mudslinging, especially when it's going to come down to writing checks anyway. It's going to come down to check writing. Just like Disney, when they opened their mouths and refuted Scarlett Johansson's claim, they had to pay a lot more for making a stupid comment. And guess what? Your stupid comment here, Warner Brothers, is going to cost you millions upon millions more. And you did it to yourself. Now, there's one thing here I will say that is at play. It's very interesting, and I just want to point it out. Warner Brothers is actively moving forward with its original IPs, its intellectual properties, that Village Roadshow co-financed, co-produced, and co-owned. They are trying to actively cut Village Roadshow out completely. So essentially, what that means is that if Warner Brothers decides to, I don't know, bring Nicole Kidman in for a Dead Calm series that's going to air and debut and be housed on HBO Max, they're basically saying, yeah, we don't need to pay you for that. This lawsuit is going to continue to get very ugly, as it already has, and it ultimately is going to extend beyond Matrix Resurrections, and it's really just a shame to say. But more that comes out about this, we will be sure to update you in the upcoming episodes, so stay tuned for more. Now, our next topic today, the Batman tickets have gone on sale. I repeat, the Batman tickets have now gone on sale. If you haven't gotten your tickets to go see The Batman, do it now. They are selling out like crazy. I got my tickets. I am scheduled to already see it 2 times. I am 100% going to see it more than that. And I will also take full advantage of it streaming on HBO Max. I think it hits HBO Max about a month afterwards. But I'm going to go see it multiple times before it even gets to that point. And for box office projections, a lot of people are throwing out a whole lot of numbers. 100 million, 120 million, 130, 150, 160, 180. And I think for this film, around 150 million on opening weekend is a solid educated guess. Now, that's a lot of money. I think it slightly may do under that. I really do. Some believe that it's going to do way more than that. 170 at minimum, if not more. Now, as much as I'm looking forward to this film, and it is my most anticipated movie of this year, no ifs, ands, or buts. And as I'm sure it's the case for millions of other people around the world, an important variable to consider is that The Batman is a 3-hour movie, which means throughout the day, less showtimes will be available. It's going to play less throughout the day, being as long as it is. So it comes down to factoring in how many screenings will take place each and every day. And of those screenings, what is the per screen average this film is set to make? This movie also looks very, very adult in tone, almost Christopher Nolan-esque, and the darkness and horror elements could really affect the amount of families that ultimately go to see this film, compared to, say, Spider-Man No Way Home, for example, which families, if you're a parent and you have a young child and you're contemplating taking them to the movies this weekend, you see Spider-Man's out, there's no hesitance for buying those tickets and knowing that you can bring your child to go see that movie and that you'll both enjoy it. With this movie, even though this film is centered around a superhero that is well known, beloved by millions around the world, this film is going to get dark. And it's going to get scary at times, especially for younger children. And, you know, while you could go to see Spider-Man together and maybe get an ice cream afterwards, this film, you might be taking your kid to, I don't know, you might be taking your kid to like a mountain just to look at the sky for a little bit, just to help them reflect and kind of erase 3 hours of material that they just have been exposed to. And Paul Dano putting people into like jigsaw-like traps, and who knows what we're in store for in this film. But that's the way it's looking. And so, you know, if you don't want to immediately put your kid in therapy after, seeing the movie, you might think twice. And that's what I think some parents might be doing with this film, and that could ultimately affect its box office numbers opening weekend. So that's why I think it might slightly perform under the 150 mark, but I think that's a good line in the sand to draw for this film for opening weekend at 150. Still a lot of money, and I could be wrong about families not bringing their kids to the movie. My brother and I recently went to go see Scream theaters, and there were little kids running around the entire theater. Still have no idea why. No idea why they were there, but nevertheless, they were there. They were existing in that present moment while the film was going on, and people were getting hacked up and all kinds of great stuff for kids to be exposed to. Language and ultimate gory graphic violence, so all good stuff that makes your perfect family Sunday gathering. Ultimately, this Batman film looks amazing. It's going to make a lot of money. It's going to make a lot of fans happy, and I think that we're going to be talking about this film for a very long time. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing it. My guess, again, I would say 150 is a good, educated guess. I do think that it will perform slightly under that number. Again, mentioning the variables of it being a 3-hour film and also more horror elements being included in this film as well might be a deterrent for families to bring their kids to see this film. But cannot wait. Go see it. Get your tickets now. Don't wait. I'll see you there. Now, for our last topic today, just want to reiterate some of the upcoming content that we're going to see up on YouTube. We're doing movie reactions that will start off with some random picks that I haven't watched yet. We'll be taking some recommendations from you guys to add to our list. To kick off our movie reactions, we're going to be looking at Looper. I've never seen the film. I know very little about it. I know who's in it. It features Bruce Willis, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Paul Dano, Emily Blunt. I'm in. I don't need no more than that. I'm in. Highly talked about movie. Very much looking forward to checking out for the first time. So be sure to stay tuned for that. It'll be up on YouTube. As we make our way through movies that we haven't seen yet, we're going to also be taking some recommendations from you guys and adding them to our collective list. Also, retro gameplay videos will be on the way as well. We're going to be diving into my vast collection of retro games, and picks will start off random as well, adding the recommendations that you guys give as well to our list. In honor of the current Winter Olympics taking place, we're going to start our retro gameplay with Nagano Winter Olympics 98 on the PlayStation 1. Be sure to stay tuned for all this content coming to YouTube very shortly. We'll be sure to make all updates on our social media pages as well, so be sure to follow us. And with that, just about wraps up our last installment of the BMuz Reviews podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Musica. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at BMuz Reviews. Be sure to listen every week on Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, and all other streaming platforms. If you're watching on YouTube, we thank you and ask you to like, leave a comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. That way you receive notifications that inform you exactly when our podcast goes live, as well as all other video content. We'll be back next Friday with another episode of the BMuz Reviews podcast, so stay tuned for more. And as always, in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good
I'm on the inside, I don't care which side. I didn't get to choose which one is the wrong or bad side. All I'm moving forward, I'm no longer in the cracks, no longer on the railroad tracks. I'm moving to the front, I don't belong waiting